So we are now gearing up towards the end. We've got the poster now and then the review paper. And so we'll talk about the poster today. Wednesday would be the review paper, depending on where we go with that. And so really when it comes down to the poster, you have this template in Canvas for you. And the weird thing about posters with this is because of the ability to like change the slide size and different things, and this is already there, we're going to make it in PowerPoint. And we make it in PowerPoint even if you were going to print it off, because it allows for a very free-flowing ability to design different things, as well as some of the scalability. It also has the added benefit for us that we can just project it if we wanted to show it. So I'm just going to, I'll just look at it here. That way I can kind of play around with that if I need to. So the idea for a poster presentation is normally at conventions or conferences. They will have these poster presentations and they will just have boards set up and they will rotate different posters through during the course of the presentation or during the conference. And so the idea is the poster needs to be very self-sufficient. Somebody should be able to look at it and get an overview of the project that you did. This is kind of a pre-publication type thing. So the idea is eventually at some point, the full manuscript would be published. But in the meantime, we're trying to get this out to other researchers, in particular, other clinicians possibly, depending on the conference. So first rule of the poster is it should be self-sufficient. Second rule of the poster is that it needs to be succinct. You should not be copying and pasting things from your paper into the poster. Sentences and stuff like that just have too many extra words that are not needed. You can see most of these are going to be bulleted format with only the most important information. One of the things that drives me absolutely nuts is when people cut and paste their entire abstract onto a poster. Now, there's sometimes that is called upon by the group, but the poster should be the abstract, right? You do not need a shortened version of the shortened version. Pictures and different aspects like that help identify important concepts without having a lot of words. As well as blocking it off so that it's easy to see the components that you want to quickly. So the idea here for your poster is somebody should be able to walk up to it without you there in the course of maybe 5 to 10 minutes, get the main points from your research project, and then if they want to, oftentimes with these, there is an author's reception in which you would go and stand next to your poster, usually for about an hour. And if they wanted to, they could come up and ask questions. This is where you collaborate on different things. maybe somebody's researching something similar to you and was interested in there, and you talk about maybe future research opportunities together, can talk a little bit more about specific methods or specific things, specific interpretations, whatever they wanted to do. But most of it needs to be able to be read through or skimmed, right? This is the idea. They're just kind of skimming, not reading, in the course of 5 to 10 minutes. So it works out fairly well that if you just have it on a PowerPoint in a normal screen, if you just project it, right? If you can read it easily on your computer screen, it will probably be easily read on your poster. So just present it to get an idea. This is about what it would look like. And so you can see here the references are very small. Right on the very edge of them. Yeah, I mean, that would be okay, because for the most part, if you really wanted to find a reference, you could get close enough to read it. Like if I really, look at it, I could get enough information from there to find the article. But you only need the references that show up on your poster. So if you cite a reference in your paper, but it does not show up on the poster, then you do not need it. So looking now at some of the different parts, I personally like a highlighted purpose statement. You can include it as just a bullet point of the introduction, but a highlighted purpose statement allows the reader to quickly get what we're talking about, even beyond the title. And that way they can decide whether or not they want to spend 5 or 10 minutes reading it, or if it's not interest to them. That's just my personal thing. You do not need a purpose statement. You have your main categories with this. Again, this is a lot. I mean, you can make your poster however you want. These are just my thoughts. I mean, you do need an introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. But like for me, a few bullet points on the introduction is nice. I like the flow chart to be included because I think you can describe that entire data collection process without any words, which is nice.
Hey, James, we can't see anything online.
Okay. How about now?
Yep, we can see it now.
Okay. So you do not, I like the flow chart because you can describe that, all fairly well and easily without the words. I do not like the results chart in there. One, because most of these you can see are about our 4 columns, and the text there, if you try to put your entire results chart, is going to get really small. So instead, take the results highlights from your results section of writing, bullet point those in there. All right. Pictures, like I said before, are great from the standpoint of trying to give some context about it. It breaks up some of the words. With that, illustrate different portions of aspects. If you have a picture specific to, more specific, these are fairly general in nature, but they're representing some of the important components, like here, this is looking at a lot of ankle and knee kinematics, in the jumping phase, right, and landing and cutting. So that's where those pictures came from. In the discussion, again, just now, some bullet points, and then mainly your conclusion statement. A few references, acknowledgments if you want to suck up or fill space or whatever. So those are the basic components. You can find templates out there for, just poster, presentation template. There are lots of them out there. You can feel free to use this one. This is in PowerPoint. You could do the same thing and just go through and change the title to whatever you want it to be. And just change people's names and thoughts and whatever you want to with that. All these things can move with that. You can move the lines and the different components. This is just a table. There, you can do all sorts of neat things if you want to with that, however pretty you want to make it or not. But don't spend a ton of time on, prettiness. This is a research presentation, so as such, the main topic and concept is just going to be what you did. So that's the basic outline for the poster. What sort of questions do you guys have regarding either posters in general or what's expected of you for your poster?
When did you say it was due?
When are posters due? I want to say next week, but I'm not sure. Let me jump out of here and go back to. Draft of poster is due November 23rd, which is, yes, a week from today. Other questions? So Wednesday is a discussion of the reflection paper, which we're not going to end up doing the reflection paper. So if we want to not get together and talk about an assignment that we're not going to do, I guess that's acceptable. Probably makes sense. And then Friday, I believe, is peer reviews of the abstract and references that are due on Friday as well. Yes. Correct. I mean, depending on the journal that you would write in, depends on whether or not it's in alphabetical order or order of appearance in the text. True AMA style is order that it appears in the text. For some reason, journals love to create their own sort of thing, and they still have this desire to emphasize authors, which just makes it really difficult for the reader. But if you have it in alphabetical order, do not change it. And if it's in order of appearance, that's great too, either one. And on the references list thing, right? Do your best to find the appropriate citation method and be consistent with that. You at least need to be consistent with a citation method, right? But I am not going to grade you guys on whether or not the periods are in the right place or the year is right after the author or at the end or any of that sort of stuff. It's more, do you have all of the things that you need in references, and are they consistent? Now, understanding that that is me being myself with regards to what I prioritize in writing, which is the text and the availability to show our reader what they need to know, opposed to formatting. If you were going to submit this to other individuals, a journal, other professors, different things, they may be very much about that. I mean, my dissertation guy literally would print it out and make sure that with a ruler things were measured correctly. Being correct on the screen was not good enough, right? That just, I mean, maybe that's there. That took 10 hours of my life that did not contribute one bit to the quality of my research or the readership's experience. So therefore, I refuse to do it. Others, I'm sure, do, and that's their prerogative as well. But I would rather have you spend more time on the thoughts regarding the writing than the formatting. Part of it is that's what computers and people that are experts in there. I mean, here's the dirty little secret that you go through. Once you're out of undergraduate, your undergraduate program, it then becomes acceptable for you to hire outside help in your writing for formatting and grammatical stuff. Why undergrad it is, I do not know. But like for my master's thesis, for my dissertation, I sent it away to professional people to fix my stuff, and I gave them money. They knew how to do citations and fix grammar, and I knew how to come up with new ideas. It worked out fine. Of course, I was cheap, so it was really a gift card to my mother-in-law, but you know what I mean. Other questions about, well, really anything at this point? Well, cool. So we are now at the end of things. Now, with the same aspect that has been the thing with this entire course, not COVID related, just the way I run this course, is very much, working with you individually on problems you have. Before class started, I was talking with the small group in the room about, how I really do like this idea of somewhat of a break. It's almost like an extended reading day type thing, where we're not going to spend time in class because I have enough work for you to be doing, that in reality, you don't need to listen to me talk about everybody else's project. You just may need help with your own. So Wednesday, I will come to class because we had it scheduled. If you would like, there will be nothing new presented. If you would like to ask questions at that, I will be on Zoom as well, be in the classroom to work on that so that others can gain from our collective questions if that is helpful. If you are at a point where you do not need that, then you do not need to show up, as has been the case always. So I would like to go, that being the case then, and this might be the last time I talk with you guys all as a group, I'd like to kind of go through what I need from you going forward. So first off, you need to finish completing the assignments. So you still have the abstract and references that are due Friday. You have peer review for your peers that are due Monday, as well as a draft of your poster due Monday and peer review due Wednesday. So you need to complete those assignments as they have been outlined and how we've done them. From there, then, you need to basically redo everything from the introduction all the way through the poster, and you will resubmit your final paper and your poster. The expectation is that it should have been improved as a result of one, having done the entire project now, right? You may be able to know more and have better information to make some changes to your introduction, because that was what, a couple months ago almost that we wrote that. But also you got feedback from your classmates as well as from me. I remind you once again that the grades on the assignments have been predominantly based off of completion and basic level of effort. In fact, I do not think I have taken away any points for any assignments from the introduction on. If you have done it, everybody has done an acceptable amount of work on it. That's the point. You did your draft. You then got a bunch of feedback from peers and from myself. I will reiterate again, if you need to look at the peer feedback, not just mine. If I agreed with a lot of the peer feedback, I would not repeat it. If I disagreed, I might have made a statement, but it is still your paper. Do not go through and just do everything your peers or even everything that I said. Take that feedback, look at it, reinterpret it from the different aspects. You have other people's now that you've also seen, right? That's a great way. I mean, I remember myself as a student. It was always very helpful to have seen other people's assignments to make sure that mine was consistent. That might be a good use of your time to go through and reread some of the ones that you've done. You guys are all, able to ask questions of each other, share things, bounce ideas off of each other, but you should be making changes to your paper as well as compiling it into a single document. I'm not as worried about formatting, about title pages. Don't worry about any of that sort of stuff. Just get it to me in one document. I put the title at the top, start with the introduction, go through, put that stuff in there. Make sure you spend some time looking at the formatting guidelines for tables and figures. Remember, tables and figures need to be able to support themselves. So they need to have all of the abbreviations or whatever defined in footers. Oftentimes we did not have footers in our tables, or I don't see why you would maybe need it in the figure, but in the table you would definitely need footers because people have abbreviations in there. Do that, with those, the different lines, different things like that. That is worth formatting only because the formatting makes it easier to understand the table and view the table. I'm not one to make formatting a big deal, but in this case, it does make it clear. So include, make sure you go through in there, as well as making sure recently I started going through because I've been only reading second parts of things. And so like I'd make notes on your guys's papers, make sure that all abbreviations have been defined previously in the text. So if you start using an abbreviation later on, it needs to be defined beforehand, and you can just define it, just include the full text of the word in the sentence and then put in parentheses the abbreviation, and from then on you can just do the abbreviation. The general rule for abbreviations is that unless is only use abbreviations that are fairly commonly known. So like, I mean, I would almost encourage if you just using abbreviations for the sure point of like decreasing space, you probably don't need to do that. If you don't remember what the abbreviation is yourself while you're reading it, neither will your reader. So just use the words. Like, most of the, abbreviations are great in the tables and stuff because it's all on one page. You can look in there. But an abbreviation, that basically you made up and nobody else used, don't even bother. Just use the words. If you already have it in there, that's fine. But don't get too carried away with abbreviations. As well as one thing to note that becomes much more important in the second round is when you're making statements, right? When you're making statements, if you're referencing like an article or a thing, in there should be the source. That is like a blaring error. Because, in one article, there was this, that needs to be sourced, right? So that I can find what that one article is with there. If I'm referencing multiple articles with different things, source in the sentence. So if I say, 4 articles found A and 6 articles found B, at the end of A should be 4 citations, at the end of B should be 6 citations. Right? So that way we can see specifically what each is. And that's a difference from, APA, which normally cites more at the end of sentences or at the end or beginning of paragraphs. Because it is just a single number in the text, plan on over sourcing. Right? If you're referencing a specific thing, throw the number in there for that article. So that's what I need from you, is that single document as well as your poster, obviously with the other assignments as well. Okay. If you need any help on that or have any questions, just reach out to me and we can either set appointments to talk. You can send it to me. I can give you feedback. Right? I have to grade all of these anyway. So it's not like if you send it to me and I give you feedback now that it, somehow is more work for me. So if you have your main draft and, I'm not going to just redo the comments I've already given you, right? But if you go through and you've addressed the comments that I've given you, you address some of the peer stuff, and at that point you go, I don't know what else I need to do, then maybe just shoot it my way and say, hey, can you give this a once over and all that sort of stuff. And depending on how close you are, I will either give you some generic comments and say, hey, I see a lot of like I statements. You're the author. You don't need to say I. We know it's I. Just write, right? Just state it as a, as a statement, opposed to I think. Just say this, right? And that might be, and so I might kick it back to you and say, there's a lot of these sorts of mistakes. Fix those, and then send it back to me. If you're a lot closer, I may do a more line-to-line analysis that basically says, hey, here's the things, like strike this, you don't need this, make this sort of change or whatever, and just very minute things. In which case, then when you send it back to me and have made those changes, I will have already graded it, basically. The idea, of course, is that we all should get very good grades in this course, because there is nothing but effort required. So we are now at the point, if you look at the points with that, I think we've only done about a third of the number of points in the class with all the assignments. 2/3 of the points are the assignment resubmissions. So get a good grade, put in the work these next few weeks. I'm giving you the time. If you need anything, have any questions, have any problems, this is me trusting you as an adult to reach out and get that help. Nobody should not get an A in this class unless you just don't do what you're supposed to. And part of what you're supposed to is get help if you need it. Now I'm beating that dead horse, but this is the point of time in the semester that historically people slack for a little bit and then just turn in a below average paper, assuming that because they've been doing well the entire time and doing that, they just resubmit the stuff that they've done, not make the changes, and then they get a below average grade. All right.